Good day, mate. Today we're going down under.
Couldn't resist, could you?
Well, it's funny because the majority of people in America, they go, "Oh, you have an accent. Where are you from?" Let me guess. Australia? I would say 9 out of 10 times they assume that I'm Australian, but then I try and do an Australian accent. Doesn't sound too good. I feel like at one point I was going to Australia a lot and I got the accent down quite good, but I just tried it now and it was quite a pathetic attempt. But the reason why I am trying to speak in a poor Australian accent is because today's show, the Chillin' with the Villain podcast, typically a classic wrestling review. Today, not so classic. It's about a week and a day or two old. We are reviewing the WWE's latest PLE. I'm still not used to saying that. The Elimination Chamber 2024. A lot of you, the Chillins, have told us you like us covering more contemporary stuff, and we're not set to any rules here on the podcast. We do what we want. So we thought, you know what, we'll watch some modern wrestling, see how we feel about it, and chat about it on the podcast.
Yes.
I probably should introduce us. You know by now, I'm the one true villain, Marty Skell, professional wrestling genius. And joining me as always is my friend, my co-host and producer of the show, Samuel Scott. Sam, we're taking it to the new school.
We are indeed. Also, we did do a 3-episode arc, which was Royal Rumble, No Way Out, which is basically Elimination Chamber now, and WrestleMania 2000. We can do a 3-episode arc for the 2000s. It's only fair as we covered Royal Rumble 24. It may be late, but we should probably do Elimination Chamber 2024 as well. So, because we definitely want to cover these 3 for the current year.
Yes, well, it seems like WWE is all the talk right now, and people can't get enough of it, can they? With Hollywood Rock coming back and the Bloodline and all this great stuff, Cody finishing the story. So it's only appropriate that we should cover it.
Lots of wonderful, great WWE talk. And now, of course, a big part of some WWE talk that's happening right now are these damn 2K24, the video game superstar ratings, right? And they even, did you notice, incorporated them into the Elimination Chamber matches, where they had the bird's eye view of the Elimination Chamber, which we'll get to, and they're actually showing each real-life competitors' 2K24 ratings just to rub it in even further.
Yeah,
so I thought...
I did notice that. I just wanted to say, I haven't seen all the talk online about... I know you said it's been a bit of a thing online. I haven't seen any of that because I don't look for that sort of stuff. But I do know that I don't know if it's a lot, but I know there were wrestlers legitimately upset about their ratings in this video game, which I found crazy because I'm just like, you're getting paid the same either way, right? But it's like I heard through the grapevine that quite a few people were a little disgruntled by it, a little upset by it.
Yeah. Well, you sent me the meme, the Kurt Angle 1,000-yard stare with his ratings versus Logan Paul's. So it is everywhere, right?
It's funny because we put up a bit of a clickbaity type reel a few weeks ago where in the reel I'm talking about how Logan Paul might be better with his experience than Kurt Angle was with the same level of experience. Obviously not suggesting in any shape or form that Logan Paul is a better wrestler than Kurt Angle, but I titled it like, is Logan Paul better than Kurt Angle? Just because I knew people weren't going to watch the video properly and just go crazy and lose their minds at this simple little statement, which they did. But apparently, WWE 2K thinks so. They think Logan Paul is better than Kurt Angle. He got 90, Kurt Angle got 89. So wasn't so crazy after all, was I?
No. Do you happen to remember any of the ratings that they were showing? I hope not, because I've got a little game for you, my man.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so you don't remember them?
No.
All right,
absolutely
awesome.
Not, no.
So what I've got the superstar ratings from 2K24, and I've also got the superstar ratings from SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, which is an old game right by now, so it's a good chunk of time to kind of demonstrate from. And also, it's a pretty good one. I feel like a lot of people have played it, and they also had a lot of the legends added in, so we'll be able to use those because they tend to kind of like pump up the legends.
Yes.
Stats-wise, which makes total sense. So I'm going to show you a SmackDown versus Raw 2008 legend, and then I will tell you the name of a 2K24 current competitor, and you tell me if their stats are higher or lower than that legend.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so the first one, we've got to go kind of big on this, right? We've got Stone Cold Steve Austin. Overall, a 95. Now, I'm one of these kind of, I find it hard to give 5-star reviews to the, 4, like anything over a 4 out of 5 in these pay-per-views, you've got to be pretty good. I feel like the same as with these. I feel like 95 is almost perfect, but they've given Stone Cold 95. Okay, so I want to know from you, is current Roman Reigns higher or lower?
I'm going to say, this is tricky. I'm going to say, I feel like he'll be a 94. I'm going to say lower.
Lower. Okay. Roman Reigns is higher.
Oh, damn. I should have guessed
that. A freaking 97.
I almost said higher, but...
Now, look at this. Ready? Bianca Belair, 95. So she is apparently on par with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Okay. I love Bianca Belair. I think this is a little bit high, right? A little bit rich. However, do you think that she is higher or lower than The Undertaker?
I'm going to say, Undertaker was still a current wrestler at the time, and you say they pumped up legends. So I'm going to say Bianca Belair is higher than The Undertaker.
They are the same.
Same. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. Out of interest, she's not higher than the Legend of The Rock by 1 point. So there we go.
Fair enough.
All right. Here's the craziest one, I thought. Look, Randy Orton got a 91 in 2024. Low. I know, it's a load of crap. But what do you think he got in 2008?
Oh, I'm getting probably lower, I guess.
Oh. He actually got higher. So they actually they've inflated everybody's numbers, but they took one off of Randy Orton, which I think is just absolutely cruel.
I don't think I've got any right.
No, but if there's any doubt that these 2K24 ratings are just completely out of whack, just like, look at this, right? AJ Styles gets an 85.
Mm-hmm.
Like LA Knight gets an 88. Are you kidding me?
Well, I guess if
Seth
you
Rollins
look at
93.
But here's the thing, right? So I guess they've got to give these wrestlers these numbers, and people are taking it personally. But if you look at it, it does kind of seem like the order of where people are in the cards, right? You got Roman Reigns and Rhea Ripley at the top.
Yep. This
Bianca
is a
Belair,
popularity
Cody,
contest.
Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, Randy Orton. Like, I feel like I don't know. I don't think it's to be taken too seriously. Like, if fans are getting upset about it and wrestlers are getting upset about it, I think, does it really matter? And plus, it's probably one person giving the score. It's like now
an intern.
I see a lot of wrestlers selling for like the PWI 500, which is a magazine. They do the 500 every year, and I see wrestlers like complaining if they don't get like a high enough spot in this thing. And I'm like, dude, it's made by like one or two people. It's just their opinion. You don't get any more money or anything else for being in it. Like, I don't know why you care so much about one or two people's opinions. If they think that you're number one, okay, that might be nice. Okay, someone thinks I'm great, cool. But if they don't think you're the greatest thing ever, I don't think it's reason to be upset about it. But
all right,
that's just me.
Actually, none of this matters, because when people play the game, they just create their own wrestler. They create themselves, give them maximum stats, and then just beat everyone up anyway.
Can you give yourself your own stats?
You could give yourself maximum stats in the older games. I'm not sure about the 2K series. If anybody knows, let us know. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting to weigh in on that. I will say 2008, Ric Flair got 88, which is less than Gunther now. So it's interesting, but we should probably move on.
Well, I do want to say really quick slam.
Oh,
Slam. I actually knew a wrestler before called Sam Slam from the UK. Actually, really nice guy. We are on the road to 10,000 followers on Instagram. We are currently at 9,490. So we need another 510 to get to 10,000. And I feel like that would be quite a nice landmark. So Anyone that's not following us already on the Instagram, please give us a follow at The Villain Pod and check us out on YouTube. YouTube, you can actually listen to the whole podcast as well if you're not already listening to it through that right now. And we have TikTok as well, but TikTok, I don't know. Can't really get into it myself, but we do have a presence on TikTok. We are putting content out all the time. So please check us out on our social medias. And it would be awesome because we ask for this every single week pretty much. If you can give us a 5-star review for the podcast, that would be really nice. That would help us out with the algorithms. Maybe it would start to get us in some of the top 100 list of wrestling podcasts, maybe. That would be really cool. So please go give us a 5-star review. And if you do, we'll read it out and you'll get a shout out on the show. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Yes, indeed. And you can only give 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, as far as I'm aware. So if you listen somewhere else, which is absolutely fine, I do. I use Google, like YouTube Music or whatever. And you can't give a review. If you want to kind of get involved and jump in and maybe let us know about something on one of the episodes, wherever you listen, jump to the YouTube episode, the episode on YouTube, and give us a comment about it. So if you disagree with our top 5 or something and you've got a better one, put yours in the comment. Or if we've missed a fact that when we're talking about one of these pay-per-views, please let us know. You can throw those in the comment of the adjacent YouTube episode. We would appreciate that as well.
We would. We're always up for healthy discussion and debates as well. In fact, we put out a reel last week where I kind of said or commented on the fact that I thought the European title was kind of a bit of a pointless title belt. And it seems like a lot of people disagreed. I feel like, I guess I'm saying this to further my argument, but it felt like a lot of people were kind of romanticizing the European Championship. Maybe they didn't really watch wrestling back then. Maybe they've just seen, gone back and watched a few things. Because I lived it, the whole European title. I was watching wrestling. And to me, it never really seemed like a big deal. But a lot of people were like, no, they had great matches. They had great champions. So I was like, name them. And they can name some people that held the belt, but not necessarily great matches.
Right.
So, but, this is all cool. This is great. The fact that I have different opinions from, maybe even some of the people that listen to this, that's cool. We're all about that, We're not going to penalize anyone that has a different opinion than we do. We don't do that on the podcast, do we, Sam?
No, we don't.
Yeah, we also don't have cliche opinions either. So, and our opinions for Elimination Chamber, I don't think would be cliche either. So we might as well get straight into it, right, Sam? Elimination Chamber 2024, live from Perth, Australia.
Do you want to do the script? Because there's my first sentence you've already ripped off.
Ripped it off. Come on.
All right. February 24th, 2024. Perth, Western Australia. Perth Stadium, or as it's currently now known right now as Optus Stadium for like a 10-year deal, whatever. I think Optus is like one of their telecommunications carriers over there. Bro, first of all, though, damn, like Perth looks like a nice city, doesn't it? Have you actually been to Perth?
I have, yeah. I've been to Perth. Here's the thing. I've been, obviously, a lot of places, and so many places I've been to, I've not really seen anything. It's like you fly in, hotel, arena, hotel. Yeah, you like the most maybe you'll get is I'll try and go out for like a nice lunch or a nice meal after the show maybe. But I have spent quite a bit of time in Perth. I'm a massive fan of Australia. Overall, I love Australia. I actually have family as well that live in just outside Melbourne, and I've been to go visit them. I've been there to wrestle so many times. Honestly, if I wasn't wrestling, I would 100% consider moving to Australia. Obviously, now it's a bit difficult because it's so far away from everything. But I feel like retirement in Australia, to me, sounds amazing. It's just such a cool way of life, and it's so chill. And it's got quite a lot of similarities to the UK, but at the same time seems more chill and much nicer weather. So
perfect.
Yeah.
All the pros, none of the cons.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Australia. And I think we have some pretty diehard fans from Australia, right?
Yes. So shout out to the Australian chillins. We have loads. So obviously US is our number one kind of demographic, then the UK. And depending on the episode, the third and fourth spot is always like flits between Canada and Australia, which again makes sense, English speaking countries. Now, but what's really interesting is on a city-wide basis, every episode, usually number one is actually LA. Are usually the most listeners in Los Angeles, right? But always 2 and 3 is Sydney and Melbourne. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Like, yeah. Because
dude, I'm
we
pretty
have like
over.
five, I think it's like 5 to 10%, maybe 5% of the listenership are in Australia generally.
Wow.
But it's always the top two of the top 3 cities are those two. And then Perth is like numbered like 20 or something on a city basis, but never miss an episode. So thanks, guys.
Wow. Like, honestly,
yeah, awesome.
I feel like anytime I've wrestled in Australia, sounds like I'm blowing smoke at my own ass, but I've been super duper over. Like, selling merchandise on those World Series wrestling shows. Shout out to Adrian, my boy Adrian, the promoter. I can bring enough merch. I was having to get stuff made in Australia and sent to venues, like boxes and boxes of t-shirts. And that was lovely. And the Australian fans always so cool. And obviously they don't get wrestling all the time there, so they're not spoiled at all, and they just appreciate everything. So I got a lot of love for Australia, if you can't tell.
Very cool. And yes, thank you for being so loyal as listeners, Australian Chillins. Really awesome to see. Anyway, attendance is at 52,590, which is loads. But do you know who or what had the highest attendance in the stadium history?
I have no idea. Who's over right now? Bad Bunny.
You're on the right lines of thinking. Who's your favorite boy in the entire world? Ed Sheeran.
I was actually going to say Ed Sheeran.
Were you really? Damn.
Oh,
yeah. Last year, 73,092. And what's interesting about that number is it's over capacity. I think the capacity build is like 69,000. So
I should have known that. So funny enough, I do have a funny story about that. I was in Australia, and I want to say Ed Sheeran, the night before. People might have to Google this and then correct me, or you can edit this out of the podcast if I'm wrong. But he was doing a stadium show, I want to say in Melbourne, and the night before he did a surprise gig outside somewhere in Melbourne City, just busked essentially with thousands of people turning up and just super duper cool. I saw him last year. He was doing a stadium tour. And he was doing Tampa Raymond James Stadium, where they've done WrestleMania before. And the night before, last minute, he added a really small theater gig with 1,500 people, or maybe 2,000. And I got to go see Ed Sheeran in that nice intimate setting.
Intimate venue, yeah.
But
yeah.
He's cool like that. He's my boy from East Anglia, so shout out to Ed. But do you think WWE could have done a bigger audience with either Roman or The Rock?
Yes, I do. Now, they also could have done a big audience full stop, because they kind of had a weird seating arrangement, right? With a lot of empty space on the stadium ground itself, not necessarily in the seats. But this is like a football, like a stadium. There was lots of empty space. Maybe it's for just the logistics of the cameras and the production, but I felt like they could have squeezed it in a few more, but maybe that's all they sold. Who knows? Well,
I think a big part on the floor is, the seats have obviously got to be in angles where people can see. True. There's obviously fire hazards and everything else. I need to make sure they get out. There's a whole bunch of factors with that. But it looked pretty damn impressive to me.
It did. Straight away, though, I've got something to complain about. There's something that takes away from the larger than life nature and aspect of wrestling. That is seeing wrestlers step off a bus and pushing their own luggage. Isn't there? They cut to a shot of Nia Jax just wrestling with her luggage, and everyone just getting off these buses. And I'm thinking, damn, didn't Ric Flair get off planes and stuff? You see him on a private jet, and it just looks like they're taking public transport. I know it's not public transport, but just seeing them lug their own stuff was kind of, maybe they're going for a down to earth angle now, but with the superstars. But I just thought, I don't really want to see these larger than life heroes kind of pushing their own luggage. What do you think?
I think the perception is, or maybe the reason they're doing that is because they do travel on a bus, and when they get off the bus, there's fans there filming it on their phones, putting it on the internet. It's going viral. So they're just we might as well just show this footage ourselves.
Get the views ourselves. All right, exactly. Fair enough. All right, so a flashy opening package plays, okay, it's very slickly produced, but there was no like emotion or anything behind it. It's just there's Rhea Ripley. She's like, oh, I'm from Australia. And then it just talked about the Elimination Chamber. But again, very slickly produced, but didn't really have anything behind it. Didn't really feel anything for it. What do you reckon?
I'd agree with that. Yeah. Very well made. Very well made.
Very well made, but just a little bit disappointing. It wasn't what I was looking for. I like these ones that tell a story about the competitors more so than, anything else. But we do like looking at the location. They did a good one with the Royal Rumble for St. Pete's as well. So maybe following like a common thread there.
Well, I think what it is, so like the Rumble, they had those commercials basically telling everyone to go on vacation to St. Pete's Beach and telling us how great St. Pete's Beach was. And obviously
it is.
And this one, they were doing it for Perth. So I think this is a Nick Khan ad where he's actually had like cities kind of essentially sponsor the show, like pay for that
spot.
I like this, which is smart. Like he was like, we've been paying to go into cities this whole entire time. Let's get them to pay for us to come into the city.
Yeah.
So,
and it might bring tourism. And I like seeing the sites. They did a good job of St. Pete's. They're doing it again here. I kind of like these. I hope they do more when they go.
How are you going to feel when they do Philadelphia?
Oh, apart from that,
I like Philly.
Okay, so we've got the first match, the Women's Elimination Chamber. And this is going to be a bit mean, but boring and predictable, Becky Lynch boringly and predictably defeats Bianca Belair, Raquel Rodriguez, Tiffany Stratton, Liv Morgan, and Naomi in over 32 minutes, despite not putting in the work, which is, of course, all Bianca Belair. Maybe she does deserve 95, just for everyone else. Yes, over half an hour for a non-Royal Rumble match. Give me a break. But it does get worse later in the event when the men's is even longer. So, this Women's Elimination Chamber, don't want to be mean, but Becky and Naomi, as the first two competitors, was just unbelievably sloppy to watch, weren't they?
It's funny you said that because I heard someone talking about it, saying a similar thing. Like it was sloppy between the two. And when I watched it, I didn't necessarily pick up on that. Big thing I did pick up on, Naomi's entrance doesn't quite work in the daylight, huh? She certainly suffered from being on first on this pay-per-view.
That is funny, yeah, because I think this was the only match that was still in daylight.
Yeah, she got screwed over because her entrance is the biggest part of her act. But no, Women's Elimination Chamber match. I mean, if you listen to the podcast, you know our gripes with these shows. 2 Elimination Chamber matches. It just, to me, it doesn't work. It's just too much. You do 2 Royal Rumbles. Is it 2 War Games?
We had 2 War Games. Yep.
2 Elimination Chambers. And I think it's awesome that the women get to have an Elimination Chamber match. But I don't think it's cool that we see 2 Elimination Chambers in the same show. It's your dinner before your dinner. Can we not do it where the men get the War Games and the women get the Elimination Chamber or something? And the Rumble, the Royal Rumble last month, that was even more egregious, I think. But I'm just not, the whole idea of an Elimination Chamber or a match like that, it's the big standalone main event. It's you're excited for and you wait all year for it. And then just to do 2, I think it just hurts the gimmick. I feel like it hurts the show. And it takes away the meaning of such a big match.
Yeah.
That being said, overall, good Elimination Chamber. Another gripe I will have is it doesn't seem like they sell the Elimination Chamber as being that dangerous anymore. We reviewed early on in the podcast the first ever Elimination Chamber, and they were really putting it over how dangerous the Elimination Chamber is. And once you go in, you come out, you never come out the same, whatever it was. When you watch Bianca Belair coming out and she's dancing and smiling and swiveling her ponytail, to me, not really putting over the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, I was thinking a similar thing when I watched it. Yeah.
Yes, the one person who I thought actually did kind of half put the Elimination Chamber over on her entrance is probably the most green one, Tiffany Stratton. She came out and she wasn't really playing up too much, but she gave it like a real deep breath before she came in the chamber. I thought she did a good idea of putting the chamber over. And honestly, watching this whole match, Tiffany Stratton, I think, probably the star of the match. And it seems like the Australian audience agreed because as far as I know, she's supposed to be a heel and she was getting cheered to the point where I think when Liv eliminated her, people were booing, and Liv seems very, very popular as well. So
right.
Tiffany Stratton, a big breakout star for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. She does a swanton bomb off of one of the pods, but I feel like the camera team did her no favors whatsoever by having like such a terrible angle.
Yes,
and it made it look really rinky-dink twice, because then they showed another angle and it was still a rinky-dink looking angle. And honestly, man, a lot of the camera work was kind of bad during this whole event, and especially they have this wide angle shot, like a wide angle lens that they keep cutting to, and it just makes things not look very, like, I don't know, dynamic. It was just, I was kind of distracted by a lot of the camera work, not just for this match, throughout. What about you?
Yeah, it's so funny that we're actually sort of critiquing WWE's production, because for the most part, they're completely on point. But in my notes, I had the exact same thing. I was like, damn, they didn't shoot that Tiffany Stratton Swanton dive very well. And I was hoping that they, it was just a mistake and they were going to show a replay.
Caught it on a better angle, yeah.
But I think, I'm not sure if it was the same angle or if it was another bad. I think it was just a shot of another bad angle. What I did notice is, of course, there's 2 Elimination Chamber matches, and anytime either a guy or a girl got on top of the pod, it wasn't lit up there. And it was actually kind of quite difficult to see them. And I feel like if I can give them some production advice, as ridiculous as that is, I feel like maybe they should put some lights up there, light it, so when people stand up there, you can see them really clearly. I mean, this has always been kind of an issue with cage matches or cells, whatever. It's obviously more difficult for the fans to see. They did have a cameraman in the chamber, and they did a pretty good job of hiding him. I think you only saw him at a few points. But yeah, to try, like, honestly, obviously I produce wrestling shows. Trying to produce something like this, it must be so, so difficult. They have the chains in the Elimination Chamber, right? Like the chains going down and across, as opposed to the steel cage, which is, what would you call that? Like
chain link fencing is like
this is, but I'm talking about the normal steel cage.
That's chain link, right? These are just literal Elimination Chambers, just literal chains.
Right. Okay.
But, I know what you mean. Like that kind of grating looking.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like these chains in the Elimination Chambers probably seem really quite difficult to work with. Right. And I think overall, this is also why it's ridiculous that there's 2 Elimination Chambers. I feel like you're quite limited to what you can do in the Elimination Chamber in terms of innovation. It feels like, other than like you can bump on the outside the ring, but there's like padding there now and people don't really care. You can climb the side of the chamber, but it's kind of hard to pay it off. You can jump off the pods and you can go through the pods, and that's pretty much it, right? In terms of innovation, what you can actually use the chamber for.
Yeah, you're right.
You can't climb on the top of it, or there's not, I don't know. I think it's a cool, unique concept, but I think there's only a certain amount of things you can do, which is another reason why it hurts having 2 of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, Naomi tried to innovate, tried to do kind of like a sunset flip thing off of the pod and just land straight on her ass.
I think she was trying to do a blockbuster.
Ah, okay. I didn't know what she was trying to do, but she lands right on her ass.
Yes, she was trying to do a blockbuster, I think, and the commentator said sunset flip powerbomb. But no, like overall, like Liv got a good reaction, Naomi got a good reaction, Becky got a good reaction. Like I said, I feel like Tiffany was the star. But how long did you say this match was?
I think it was 32. Let me see.
Okay, so when it got to
32 minutes.
When it got to the final 3, which was Liv, Becky, and Bianca, it seemed to take a freaking long time from the final 3. And when they did the eliminations, they did them back to back. That's why they obviously did some time. But to me, it felt like I was like, okay, they should go home now. And they went another 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, they did. The crowd seemed to really eat this match up. I didn't like it. You seemed to be somewhere in between, right?
I thought it was enjoyable.
Yeah,
I thought it was enjoyable. It was
right,
fine.
Cool.
Yeah, I like watching the women's wrestlers in WWE because they have connections with the audience. The people like them, it seems.
No, you're right. You're right. The best part about this match, I thought, was not even related to the match or wrestling in general. It's the sun starts setting around the end of it and in this open air stadium. And just like the light of it looks incredible. I was like, damn, that's lovely.
No, it was cool. So in this match, they seem to have a bit of a beef between Tiffany Stratton and Bianca. And as it stands, the women's title matches at WrestleMania as Becky and Rhea and Io and Bayley. And you got to believe that they're going to put Bianca she's going to have a big match at WrestleMania, you should hope. You'd hope it wouldn't just be like a multi-man match or a big tag. It feels like Bianca, we saw a 2K rating that they obviously think a lot of her. So originally I thought maybe they were going to do Jade versus Bianca at WrestleMania, which I would absolutely like to see.
Yeah,
but it's been a bit quiet on the Jade front. And I actually feel like maybe they're going to pivot and maybe do Bianca and Tiffany, which would probably be an incredible match. Like, did you get that vibe from watching this?
Definitely, yeah. I'm a big fan.
Which one would you rather see?
Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill, but I don't think it's going to happen.
But I think that would be more of a spectacle. But I think Bianca,
100%.
Bianca and Tiffany would be a better match, I think. Let us know in the comments. Do you want to see Bianca versus Tiffany or Bianca versus Jade? I'd like to actually get people's opinions on that.
Next, New Catch Republic are defeated by Judgment Day in a 17-minute tag match. Buddy, airplane spin, super underrated move, isn't it? I just love these old school moves. Like, Cesaro, like the giant swing, where there's no kind of impact on them. They're just like these kind of carnival strongman moves. Can you think of any others where there's no like impact on them? They're just almost like a show of strength. I was thinking of like a fireman's carry, but no, it's not the same. Maybe that says a lot about this match that I thought the key takeaway was an airplane spin, but that's my genuine feelings.
So from this, everyone knows I'm a massive fan of Dominic Mysterio. He did a promo at the start of the show, the start of this match, and the crowd was obviously booing very heavily. Very heavily. But I do think, tell me what you think, and I'd like to know what the listeners think. To me, it felt like they lowered Dominic's mic as well to give the kind of appearance that the fans are drowning him out. But I don't think those mics you can't drown out. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't. And it felt like they lowered it to give that effect. I mean, I'm not saying that they were putting in boos. They definitely weren't. The crowd was booing super duper 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 loud. But I think to enhance that, they lowered Dominic's microphone.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
I was wondering if they kind of turned up the crowd or something. Yeah, something. The mix did seem like there was a deliberate kind of production choice there.
Yeah. It's a shame that Dominic wasn't wrestling. But no, overall, fine match. This match, at one point I was thinking, okay, they should bring it home now. And they just kept going. It felt like they peaked and then did like at least another 6 minutes. And I think the issue with that is it didn't seem like the majority of the audience really knew who Tyler and Pete were, because I guess obviously they're more of a new addition. So they didn't really know who they were. And so because of that, they just kind of knew that the Judgment Day was going to win. So it's kind of hard to have a long match with lots of false finishes when the crowd
are just waiting for something that they already know.
Yeah, they know who's going to win the match. That being said, the guys definitely worked really, really hard. One other gripe I had with this, I felt like they bumped around Priest like way too much. You talked about the aeroplane spin. Priest took that. He took like a double burning hammer. He took a lot of these moves, and he's a really big guy who they clearly have plans for as a top guy. And I just felt like you've got Finn Balor in there. Why would you not just use him for these moves rather than Priest? I just felt like they didn't protect Priest's size at all. And I know he's not quite the big show, but compared to everyone else in the match, he's pretty damn big. And I felt like maybe they should protect that more. He kind of wrestled this match like he was the same size as everyone else in the match. And it's like, no, your advantage is that you have that height. So tell that story. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like most people watching this probably enjoyed it. I don't really have too much else to say. You said their tag team name was the New Catch Republic?
New Catch Republic. And then Corey Graves says, that sounds like where my wife would buy her clothes.
Oh, well, he really put it over. Maybe it would take some time to catch on. I mean, a lot of names sound stupid when you first hear them. Like, think about how stupid the name Triple H is, but now it just sounds normal, you know? Or The Rock even.
Or even Judgment Day, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Which before this was the name of one of the best movies ever, Terminator 2.
Well, it was a pay-per-view for the WWF for years.
And it was pay-per-view, yeah.
But I didn't have too much else to say.
No, I didn't mind this. Now, I did dunk on the women for some sloppy turns, but when Priest does that Razor's Edge thing and bit and misses, I was like, oh my God, what is this? But one thing that did kind of irk me is Bate gets tagged by Dunn, okay? And they stay in doing double team moves for an inordinate amount of time. I didn't have the problem with them. The referee doesn't even react. She's just stood there, just letting them both in for like about 30 seconds. There was no like attempt of like, no, you've got to go. You've got to go. She was just like waiting for her cue. And I just thought that took me out of it quite a bit. Like it's just fine for him to be in there because she knows that the crowd know that they're waiting for a cool little double team spot. I don't think that should be allowed. It was not cricket, was it, Marty?
No, and that does seem to be
leave.
There does seem to be a tendency of sort of modern day wrestling where just two guys would be in the ring, double teaming in front of the referee. For the idea is it's supposed to be 10 seconds, and I feel like with modern wrestling, why not just change the rules? If you don't want to do that, why not change it to 10 seconds or 15 seconds? I mean, that might be a bit ridiculous, but people are doing it anyway. So, like, if you're gonna have a rule, you gotta enforce it, right? Like, what's the point in having the rule otherwise?
Yeah, speaking of rules and changing the rules, since when were kind of closed fist punches allowed? Because it used to be open slaps, right? But now everyone does closed fist punches. But this isn't necessarily a modern thing. I'm pretty sure the Big Show did them. Shane McMahon with his little flurries. But
punches have been done for years and years.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I was pretty sure that like the rule was it can't be a closed fist.
Maybe, but that's never like in Europe. They maybe enforce that, but nowhere else ever. That's why Europeans do like European uppercuts and whatnot, as opposed to punches. But people have been doing punches in wrestling since forever. So
yeah. Okay, next one. Yeah, I didn't mind this match, but don't have too much to say about it. This isn't even a match. So the WWE show off another one of their tourism packages for Western Australia, like they did for the St. Pete's. And I just really like these. If I'm going to get advertised to, I like it being more subtle or something more generally enjoyable, like going to see some nice locations and stuff. What about you?
Absolutely. And I think it's just very cool that the WWE seem to be doing pay-per-views now in different countries other than the United States. So they did one in Puerto Rico, I believe, right? They did this one here in Australia, Perth, which I'm sure was logistically was probably a nightmare because they had to ship the Elimination Chamber to Australia. That kind of
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They're doing one in Berlin, I want to say, later this year. I think maybe they're also doing France, maybe. I'm not sure. But they're going around the places doing actual PLEs. And that was the thing with being in England the whole time, as a kid growing up, they never brought like really big pay-per-views to England. Like they have things like Rebellion and Insurrection, but they didn't have the real like actual pay-per-views. We definitely didn't get we got one SummerSlam 92. That was it. And nothing after that. So I think it's very cool that WWE are doing international pay-per-views. And so it got me thinking that for this week's top 5, we could do the top 5 non-US WWE pay-per-views. It's time for Marty and Sam's top 5. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of crossover, so I'm going to get mine out now before you can. Number 5, the Battle Royal at the Royal Albert Hall. So you can tell there's not been too many pay-per-views outside the US when this is my number 5. But the reason why this is on my list, the show itself I actually thought it was pretty decent. And it topped off with the Battle Royal that Davey Boy Smith would win. This was like a precursor to SummerSlam 92. They did this pay-per-view knowing that, because this worked, they kind of gave them the confidence to be able to do SummerSlam 92. But just the idea that WWE did a show in Royal Albert Hall, I just think is awesome. Have you been there before?
I have. I have never heard of this event, though.
Yes, yeah. I mean, give it a Google. It's basically a 20-man battle royal at the end that the Bulldog wins. But the Royal Albert Hall, it's such a famous,
prestigious and lovely, classy venue. Yeah.
Yes. I think I saw Ronan Keating there before. I'm revealing a lot today, but yeah. The number 5, the Battle Royal at the Royal Albert Hall. I like that as well. The fact that the name of the venue is in the title of the show.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. So you haven't seen that, go check it out. And Sam, you'll have to check it out. That brings me to my number 4, SummerSlam 1992. Obviously, an amazing, it's been argued what the attendance actually was, but either way, they drew a big house, okay? Yeah. And they had that amazing main event with Brett and Bulldog. People have spoken about loads. It's not super high on my list because there was kind of a lot of filler on this show and a lot of did we review this or not?
Yeah, we reviewed this. Yep.
Yes.
Pretty early on. So go back and listen to SummerSlam 1992 review, but that's my number 4. My number 3, there's a theme here with my lists. One Night Only. Now, this was a pay-per-view in the WWF that it was in England, and it actually was really good. You're looking at me with a confused face like you don't know this show. No, I was thinking of One Night Stand.
Okay, no. Okay, so One Night Only, it was in 90, let me double check this, in 97. Yes, and it had Brett versus Austin on it, and it had Shawn Michaels versus the Bulldog, and it has pretty controversial finish. But in fact, I'm going to read these matches to you really quick. Triple H versus Dude Love, Tiger Ali Sin versus Leif Cassidy. Okay, no worries. Headbangers versus Los Pericos. Oh, Patriot versus Flash Funk. Oh, and maybe this isn't the best show. LOD versus Goldbergs. Oh, but then Vader versus Owen Hart, Bret Hart versus The Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels versus the British Bulldog. So really strong back end. And the fact it happened in England at the time, I was just so excited. And yeah, actually a really good show, which I would like to review on the podcast. And if you would like us to review it, let us know, because I think that'd be really cool to look back on. My number 2, WrestleMania 18. And that was in, Toronto?
Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the main reason for that is that the Rock and Hogan match, just unbelievable. Yeah. Maybe the best match ever outside of the US, for the WWE at least. So, WrestleMania 18, again, another show that we need to review for the podcast. And my number 1, you might be able to guess, it is a show that we have reviewed on the podcast, Canadian Stampede. Now, this was also in Canada. We have reviewed this one, so go back and listen to it. Hell of a show, hell of a main event. And yeah, and that was very Canadian themed as well. It was very, very cool.
It was, yeah.
Highly recommend that you both watch the show and listen to our review. But that's my top 5.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful top 5. My number 5, I know is bad, but it has nostalgic reasons. But it sounded very similar on the lineup to your One Night Only. And I was thinking, did it have a different name? We've put the same on, but we haven't. Mine is, again, it's terrible. No Mercy, which was in 1999, but it was a UK one that happened earlier than the actual No Mercy 1999 that happened in the US. Do you remember this?
Yeah, it's so bizarre that there was 2 No Mercies in this year. And the one in the States had the famous Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian ladder match.
Yes.
This one that was in the UK, what was the main event again? Wasn't it Shane and Triple H versus The Rock or something like that? Or
yeah, Shane was there. It was Stone Cold versus Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
And The Undertaker. It was a triple threat. It wasn't a good match. I mean, it wasn't a good event, full stop. But there's lots of memorable moments for me. Tiger Ali Singh winding up the crowd, which is pretty good. Mick Foley using the word wanker because he knows that we use it. That was pretty good. Yeah, wasn't great, but I had it on VHS. I used to rinse it all the time, and I have a soft spot for it. But no.
It's the pay-per-view. The highlights are Mick Foley saying wanker and Tiger Ali Sin. Definitely going to go back and watch that now.
Right? Yeah.
Stop the podcast. Jeez.
Number 4, I've got, it's not called King of the Castle. I keep calling it King of the Castle. It's Clash at the Castle.
Yeah.
Clash at the Castle, which was 2022. Now, I have to admit, I actually haven't seen this all the way through. I've seen a couple of matches from it. This was 2022. So this was before we did the podcast. And after I kind of checked out a little bit of wrestling, the podcast kind of rejuvenated it for me. So it was in this no man's land time for me, but my friend said it's really good. So I just watched a couple of matches and they were really good. I saw Gunther versus Sheamus. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah, that was great.
Have you seen this pay-per-view?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good match. And the main event was Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, which was also pretty good. But that Gunther and Sheamus match was, it was lovely. And it makes me, well, I was going to say, want to watch the rest of the pay-per-view, Clash at the Castle, not King of the Castle. But maybe I've picked just randomly the 2 only good matches. I will never know. But they were super good. Really
people were putting that Gunther and Sheamus match over as like match of the year and whatnot. So the fact that got to happen in the UK was pretty damn cool.
Yeah, happened in Wales. So that was pretty cool. Number 3, I've got Rebellion 2001. Have you seen this? Well, you've seen everything. Why am I asking you?
I've seen it, but I couldn't tell you one match from it.
Okay, so the main event, the match before the main event, I believe, was a really good Kurt Angle versus Y2J Chris Jericho match. Then the main event was Stone Cold versus The Rock, which was for the WWF Championship, I believe. And that was also a very, very good match. But it also involved Kurt and Chris Jericho from the awesome match before, who came in and ran interference. So it's just a lot of shenanigans. That was in the UK, obviously. Rebellion. They all are, right? Or are they?
Yeah, not? Rebellion and Insurrection were WWE like UK exclusive pay-per-view. So they'd be on our version of pay-per-view, which was Sky Box Office, but they were only available in the UK. Do you know what? Like most of these UK pay-per-views weren't very good, but obviously I have like a soft spot for them and nostalgia for them. I kind of feel like I just don't know if the audience would care. Like maybe I have to save this for the Patreon, but I almost feel like I'd like to do a story arc of us covering the UK pay-per-views. Might be kind of cool. People let us know if you're interested, because a lot of these shows maybe the listeners haven't watched before, but at the same time, these are probably shows that haven't really been reviewed. So it might be kind of fun for us to review them. That being said, a lot of them are kind of glorified house shows at the same time.
Basically, yeah. But, I mean, that No Mercy one is that all over, isn't it?
Dude, like main event, like The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I forgot about
the Undertaker. That.
Yeah.
Triple threat. All right. Number 2, I have SummerSlam 1992, which we covered episode 8 of the podcast. There was an amazing Ultimate Warrior versus Macho Man Randy Savage match. Macho Man had an awesome outfit on. And of course, the main event, the Bret Hart and British Bulldog match, just absolutely rocked. Go check out episode 8 if you want to hear our thoughts on that event. I really enjoyed it. Number 1, now, when we came out with this idea for a top 5, I had to quickly then say, by the way, I mean WWE ones, right? Because I knew that you'd try and be smart and fill it full of Japanese events that I haven't heard of, and I just won't know what's going on. So it's like WWE ones. But then I didn't mention this to you, but I also was going to say, and we probably shouldn't put any Canadian ones in there, because there's actually been loads. Like WWE have been to Canada loads, right? It's obviously easier for them. So I actually had a self-imposed challenge of not putting any Canadian pay-per-views in my top 5. However, I couldn't do it because my number 1 has to be Canadian Stampede, which again, we covered on the podcast on episode 4. This, Matty just mentioned it. And again, check out episode 4 if you want to hear our thoughts on it. But it absolutely rocked. It sounded lame. I was like, Matty's like, oh, let's cover Canadian Stampede. I was like, that sounds terrible. And I knew it was like an In Your House. I was like, oh my God, here we go. Blew me away. It was absolutely fantastic. And like you said, it was very Canadian. Like they really celebrated it, which I think was important. So yeah, very enjoyable. My number 1 is Canadian Stampede.
Well, we both agree on the Canadian Stampede being number 1.
Mm-hmm. We do, which is lovely. And there's no arguments, and I think it's very, very nice. But I had a question for you. Have you seen a pay-per-view called Beast in the East from 2015?
It's in Japan, right?
Yes.
I think I can't remember if I've seen it. Okay. I can picture in my head what it looked like, but I'm not sure if I've just seen like clips or if I've seen the whole show. I can't remember. What year was it?
Okay. 2015.
Wasn't it Brock Lesnar versus someone?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So a friend of mine, I told him the top 5, and he mentioned Beast in the East 2015. It sounded like he made it up, but I quickly Googled it before we recorded, and it seems pretty good. Yeah, like, it seems like it's going to be a good pay-per-view. So I just wanted to know if you.
The thing is, you say pay-per-view. I don't think it was a pay-per-view
or event, like whatever you want to call it. Yeah. What was it?
Like a essentially a house show, which maybe they obviously filmed and maybe put on the network or whatever.
I gotcha. Okay.
But I just want to give a shout out because they did do that pay-per-view. I couldn't really remember. I can only remember one match from it, but it was recently, well, I guess last year, they did Backlash in Puerto Rico, and the crowd were like awesome. And Sky, my pal Io Sky had that awesome match with Bianca. I remember the crowd just being amazing for that. Also, they had that match who was it? Oh, it was Damian Priest against Bad Bunny, and they had Carlito return. They had Savio Vega come out. So that show actually should probably be on one of our top fives, but it could be an honorable mention. I kind of forget the newer stuff when I do these top five lists.
Fair.
So, but no, WWE doing more pay-per-views around the world. I think that is awesome. It is the World Wrestling Entertainment after all.
Yeah, it is the World Wrestling Entertainment, but when it's in another country, they always put the country after it. So it'll be like Perth, Australia. But when these American wrestlers are just from some little place, they don't say USA afterwards. They just still, even if they're in Australia, they just say they're from Baltimore, Maryland or something, and like Australian be like, where?
Well, so how many years like they'd have Japanese wrestlers and they'll say from Japan.
From Japan. Well, they
not from the city.
Dude, they introduced, obviously, for the men's elimination chamber, we'll get there, Drew McIntyre, and he's just from Scotland.
Really?
Yeah. Not even a town or a city.
I can't say Air Scotland.
They just say...
How much less effort? But like, there's not more effort to say Air Scotland, but just from Scotland.
Yeah, from Scotland.
Oh, he's one of their top guys. He's going to wrestle at WrestleMania.
I know, it's so funny.
Jeez.
Okay, Austin Theory introduces Grayson Waller for the Grayson Waller effect. Now, I knew that this would annoy me, and I knew that it shouldn't have been on a pay-per-view, but of course, he's from Australia. It's in Australia. I was like, let's let them have their fun. My God, this just took so long. Seth Rollins takes about 3 minutes to come down to the ring, and I actually agreed.
3 minutes and the rest.
Right. Austin Theory, who was like looking visibly bored, and then Cody Rhodes is going to come out. I was like, well, hopefully he'll wrap it up. He'll know what he's doing. Takes just as long. I was like, God damn it. Oh, by the way, when Cody comes down to the ring, the amount of phones, I know we've been very nice to you guys in Australia and the Australian fans, but the amount of phones in the audience is absolutely shameful.
I have a comment about this, but I'm going to save it for the main event.
Okie doke. They must have just been told to just drag out the time or something. I don't know, but this was just took forever, and I don't know why it was on here. What do you reckon?
I thought the same thing. It took a very long time. That like WWE is very good at doing a lot of things, but my lord, that some of the entrances just take forever. And here I had no interest in it. I'm sorry, I just didn't. So I kind of zoned out. Honestly, at one point I left to like go make some food during Cody's entrance. When I came back, it was still going on.
Still on.
And he's like signing up people's autographs and stuff on the way to the ring, which is very nice. I think this is the thing. Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes are two of the biggest stars in WWE, if not the biggest. And so the crowd there wanted to experience them, and they were loving it. They were absolutely loving seeing Cody and Seth, but it doesn't translate very well for us watching on TV when it's just taking forever and ever, and nothing is really happening. Of course, it ended up with Austin Theory and Grayson Waller getting beaten up. I always kind of have a problem with Cody. He's done this quite a few times where there's a beatdown or like a brawl, and he will do his like nice, like finesse Cody cutter. I just feel like it's a bit of a weird move to do like in a brawl, but I guess that's pro wrestling. That's just me being, that's just me, whatever. Nitpicking. But it's the crowd loves Seth. The crowd loves Cody. Guess you had to have them on. Maybe they should just done a tag match here. Might have been kind of cool rather than a talking segment. But
or can it have just been on the pre-show?
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Wasn't for me. Was not for me. All right. I'm so lucky, mate. I got to sit through a near 40-minute match just to watch Drew McIntyre defeat Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley, Logan Paul, Randy Orton, and LA Knight. Yes, it's the men's Elimination Chamber. It wasn't as bad as I made it sound, but 40 minutes, I was starting to kind of, oof. I've got a lot of good things and a lot of neutral things to say and a couple of bad things. Do you want to go first, or shall I just hit you with them?
Well, I mean, I'll just blurt it out now. I think, Randy Orton comes out, gets like a massive pop as expected, and a few of the guys got really big pops, but I also noticed kind of the crowd was they were flat through quite a lot of this. Yeah. And I don't think it was anyone's fault other than the fact that this was the second Elimination Chamber match. I just think like, and sometimes I feel like with these stadium shows, it's kind of hard to translate the audience through the camera. And we found that with the Royal Rumble last month. It sounded like the crowd were dead, and it really took away from the show. Like I said earlier, there's kind of limitations with what they can do in the chamber. Actually, there was a point that I made earlier where I want to say it was in this chamber. was it this chamber or the women's chamber? Maybe it was the women's chamber where I can't even remember who it was now. Maybe it was Bianca, and she like threw a heel back in the pod and like, shut the door. And I thought, oh, you're actually kind of helping her. Do you know what I mean? Like if she can just hide in there while we
it's true. Yeah.
Go get, eliminate each other, and then she just come back out, right? Rather than, if she's out there, she's got potential to lose. Do you know what I mean? And other people could do the eliminations.
Yeah.
But they did a spot here where as soon as Logan Paul's capsule or pod opened, Kevin Owens came in and started beating the hell out of him.
And locked him in with him, which I thought was a good subversion of
I thought that was a really nice spot, but it seemed like the crowd weren't even really getting into that. I was like, blimey. I've got here, Corey Graves says Lashley is a favorite. I thought, we love Lashley, but no. In fact, he's
a favorite on the podcast.
Yes. This is a theme throughout this whole entire pay-per-view. I think the general consensus of it was all very predictable.
Yes.
And
100%.
I don't know, but that's not, we're not saying that in a negative way. It's not necessarily a bad thing because maybe they did the right choices. But like, dude, for the example, the women's Elimination Chamber at that WWE press conference they did in Vegas, they'd already done like a face-off between Rhea and Becky. So it was so obvious that Becky was going to win this match. Being predictable sometimes is good. Like I feel like the right people did win. I do worry though that it felt like before with Vince and whatnot, the booking would always throw a spanner in the works every now and then. Someone would win the world title that you weren't expecting. Or, for example, Brock Lesnar ended the streak. Or these different, or there'd be like a random heel turn that you just didn't see coming. I feel like within the last year or two, WWE has been listening to the fans, which is really good. And, I'm sure Triple H is heavily involved and they're kind of giving the fans what they want, which again is really good. And I feel like the product has got better. But at the same time, I do kind of feel like the unpredictability has gone down slightly more. Like last year, people were shocked when Cody didn't win the match,
Yeah.
And I feel like that was from before. Now it seems like everything you can kind of call. But at the same time, this whole WrestleMania season has been unpredictable in the sense we couldn't work out what the main event match was going to be. So I think that's obviously they've done a very good job of that. But throughout this whole pay-per-view, it's like we know he's going to win. So it is a little tricky to sit through a 40-minute match when you know who the winner's going to be. It does seem like Drew McIntyre is on a roll with people actually seem to really be getting into him right now, which is good because I thought Seth versus Drew doesn't really seem like a WrestleMania world title main event, but Drew's been doing really well and stepping up and getting a lot of heat. And so I feel like, and actually it's funny though, because Drew's a heel, but I feel like the audience probably does want to see him win the world title because he had the reign before, which is during the pandemic. So that's the other sort of critique I have of the Triple H booking. I know it's not just him, but a lot of the times he pushes his heels so strongly where they don't cheat, where it's kind of like no reason to boo them. Like Rhea is still supposed to be a heel, I think. And she's like the biggest babyface in the company. Gunther is a heel, but it's like, why would you boo him? He beats everyone. He's the best. Roman Reigns is a heel. Again, he beats everyone, kind of like maybe people are coming around now where they don't like Roman because he does always win. But no, the guys worked hard. I love Logan Paul. I was watching this match and I was trying to work out what the other matches for WrestleMania would be. I'm looking in this match. I'm like, so who's LA Knight going to wrestle at WrestleMania? Who's Randy Orton going to wrestle at WrestleMania? And I actually kind of predicted them both before the angles happened, but AJ came in and attacked LA Knight. What I did like about this is there was referees there trying to stop AJ.
Yes.
They weren't just like, oh, it's a no disqualification match, so anyone can just run in and do whatever they want, which I hate. But the referees were still trying to stop AJ. So I thought that was cool. So it seems like we're getting AJ and LA Knight at Mania. I'd say I was pretty cool with that. And the other match they seem to set up, which I'm actually very excited for, and I thought a while back, I thought maybe they'd do LA Knight and Logan Paul. But then I was like, oh, they might actually do Logan Paul and Randy Orton.
Yeah.
It seems to be the route that they're going down. And I feel like that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, me too. That was
big fan of both.
Speaking of predictability, you just knew towards the end when Paul was giving it large that an RKO, a beautiful RKO, is going to come out and knock him out, and it did. So I like these things where people get what they want. Every now and again, like you said, predictability is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't know what your thoughts are on Kevin Owens, but I noticed he's always on. He never drops his character. He's always committed to the bit, which I really like. And actually, honestly, Logan Paul is as well. And between that, and they actually, when Logan Paul comes down to the ring, they had a great little interaction where Kevin Owens kind of freaks out who's in the pod, and Logan Paul just looks at the camera and is like, that was weird. Yeah. It's just, both very good kind of character wrestlers. I really enjoy those two when they're together.
I was kind of hoping that Logan Paul would eliminate Kevin, because Kevin kicked the crap out of Logan Paul the whole match, and I thought it'd be quite good heat for then Logan to eliminate Kevin, but it didn't go like that. But they worked well together.
Randy Orton, I think. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I actually like this match. I know what you mean about the crowd were dead for it. They only kind of came alive when the camera cut to Logan Paul up close and they booed. Yeah. And then when the camera cut away to Drew McIntyre or something, they just were quiet again. But this, even with the pre-show included, this is a 4.5 hour pay-per-view. And I don't know if you noticed, when they cut to the wide shots after a match happens, everybody's just running to the bathrooms.
I'm sure.
These people are probably done. So I kind of I know what you mean. It really does elevate a match when the crowd are behind it. But in this instance, I was just trying to kind of understand the context that these people, it's probably hot as hell. They've been there all day.
Yeah.
And it's one of the final, it was a long day. So I didn't try and let that stop my enjoyment. I actually did enjoy this. The men's Elimination Chamber, I thought, was pretty good.
You know what I really liked about this, or what I liked about the finish? I like the finish is what I'm trying to say. Logan Paul retaliated by being eliminated from Randy Orton by hitting him with the knucks. And then Drew just covered him 1, 2, 3. It was perfect, because I feel in this day and age, what a lot of people do, what I see is they would do the knucks, but then the other heel would have to hit their finish, right?
Pick him up for a finisher and then pin him. Yeah.
Right. But it's so then you've just kind of taken away from the, now it's Drew 100%, cheated to win, and Logan Paul 100% screwed Randy Orton. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
There's no, you can't debate that. Whereas if they hit their finish, it's kind of it's kind of you
makes
lose
it more
the heat.
clean. Yes, yeah,
right. You lose the heat from the
totally.
weapon shot. So I liked how they did it like that, and I thought that was much better than how I've seen other people do it. But it just comes down to the same thing, man. 2 Elimination Chamber matches, and you mentioned earlier about how the opening video package was nice and slick, but didn't have much of a story. You can't really tell a great story with 6 competitors in a match. You need those one-on-one matches, those big singles matches. And those multi-man matches I've just never really been a big fan of. And having to sit through 2 of these, a bit too much. And I felt like the fans felt it as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Next, an old man thanks Australia for letting his company onto their premises. Then Nia Jax makes her way to the ring, only to be defeated by Rhea Ripley in just under 15 minutes. Now, I enjoyed this match, but something happened in this that I couldn't get out of my head from the point I saw it until right now. It's still been playing all while we were recording. A couple. I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before when you were talking about Rikishi may or may not be main event potential. That's up for debate. You said to me, put it this way: the stink face isn't main event potential, right?
Mm-hmm. Main event caliber.
Main event caliber, right? Just doing the stink face. We've got a main event of a major pay-per-view. No, Jax has a friggin' stink face. And I was just looking at that. I was like, oh my God. I thought, if you're trying to get someone around to wrestling, let's say you have a lady friend and you're like, hey, I'm interested in wrestling. Women are killing it now.
She might see someone
in the day.
Come
watch this with me. You'll love this lady Rhea Ripley, something like that. And you watch that and she's just getting someone's butt dunked on her face. I was just like, oh my God, this is... The other day, you mentioned something that made you kind of ashamed to be a wrestling fan. I kind of felt this, and I was watching it by myself.
Yeah, I could do without that. Yeah, I get what she's trying to go for, but to me, it's not good heat. I don't think it kind of, the kids watch the show as well, and I don't think if you're a parent, you want your kids watching that. I don't know, not a big fan. So I was excited for this match, mainly to see the response that Rhea Ripley would get on her entrance. And I was like, whoa, this place is going to explode. And I might be way off here, and I'd like to know what the listeners thought. The audience, I feel like, didn't go nowhere near as nuts as I thought they would for Rhea. And I think the big reason is because pretty much everyone was trying to film her entrance on their phones. And I think everyone thought the same as me. People are going to go nuts. I'm going to film this on my phone. But because everyone did that, nobody was going nuts.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, that's a shame.
Oh, man.
Do you think it was the right choice having this is the main event?
Yeah, I do. Singles. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
what do you reckon?
I agree as well. At first I didn't assume it would be the main event. And then when it was, I was kind of like, oh, I guess it just makes sense. Plus, as well, they were having Drew go over in the men's rumble. You don't really want a heel going over in the main event. But I was kind of surprised at first when this was the main event. I actually thought it was a pretty good match. Rhea always works really hard. Nia definitely stepped up and worked hard in this match. They tried. They really did try. The other issue with this, again, going back to how sort of predictable everything is, I don't think anyone thought that Nia Jax had a chance in winning whatsoever. And
right. Yeah, of course.
They did a little smoke and mirrors, like they did like an announcer table spot, but I felt like there didn't seem to be even like one super strong false finish for Nia Jax. There was never really a point where you thought she had a chance of winning.
Might take. Yeah, no, not at all.
So I feel like they could have maybe done with some more smoke and mirrors, maybe a referee bump. If they had people that could run in. I don't know if Nia, I don't think she's associated with anyone at the moment, so maybe that wouldn't have worked. But I felt like to really get that moment where it seemed like Nia was going to win, and maybe even more importantly, Rhea was going to lose, would have been really cool. They didn't really get that. It's still good main event. The right person won. Rhea is definitely a superstar. Are we looking forward? Two-part question. Are we looking forward to Rhea versus Becky? And are the crowd going to be 100% behind Rhea over Becky at Mania?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm behind Rhea.
Well, there we go.
So many people are. Yeah, but maybe I'm not behind Becky, as you know. But I don't speak for everyone, and I don't necessarily communicate, apart from with our fans, with anyone that I'd know would actually like or not like Becky. So to me, like in my bubble, like everyone's like 100% Rhea Ripley, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I truly don't know. Yeah,
Rhea Ripley, I think is just so hot right now and just on a roll. People want to see her and people want to see her kick ass. Like I'm sure, like when WWE put videos out of or social media videos out of Rhea Ripley, it's just night and day above with the views over everyone else. It seems like people want Rhea Ripley, and she's already like a big star, but I feel like there is potential there for her to be like the biggest female star of all time.
I agree. Yeah.
And maybe even break out into the mainstream. I think that's obviously what they're hoping for with her. So it'd be interesting. Plus it's Philly and they're a bit more of a, I guess smart is not the right word, but more relentless crowd. Could really see them going with Rhea. And I think at that point, if you're Becky Lynch, you might as well lean into it. I think personally, I'm sure WWE want to keep her as a big baby face, but I am looking forward to it. I don't necessarily see Becky winning. So like I said, again, it's like you've had Rhea, she's beating everyone, good for beating everyone. Roman Reigns beating everyone. But either way, I think another question is, will Rhea and Becky main event night one? And do you think they should? Because obviously night two is going to be main evented by Cody and Roman.
Yeah, maybe they will.
I feel like last year there was quite a bit of controversy because both nights of WrestleMania were main evented by the men. And I feel like Charlotte and Rhea felt like they should have been main event. And to be fair to them, they had the best match of the whole entire weekend. So they definitely could have main evented. Instead, the tag team title match, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against the Usos, was the main event. So I feel like it'll be interesting to see what they do this year. I'm not sure if Rhea has main evented a WrestleMania yet. If they really want to make her a big star,
I think they probably should. Yeah, does night 2 have more kind of sway or gravitas than night 1? Is that the implication, or does it not work like that?
Not really, but I guess the main event of night 2 is maybe considered the biggest match.
Gotcha.
All
right.
It's the final, isn't it?
The final, yes, I understand. Right, cool. Mm-hmm. Well, we will have to find out. We will be covering that like reasonably soon. Isn't that crazy to think how quick this year's gone already, man?
Yeah, very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Sam, I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite match of this event?
So for me, it was the men's Elimination Chamber. What about for you?
There's really not a lot to choose from, is there?
I actually thought that I wasn't a fan of having 2 Elimination Chambers like you were, but we've got 2 Elimination Chambers. With that in mind, I was kind of impressed with the kind of composition of the card. So it's the women's Elimination Chambers. You've got a multi-person match, the men's Elimination Chamber, then like a women's singles match. I thought the actual kind of like, I don't know what the actual word is, but like the composition of how they structured the card was smart, like was good. It was pretty well done.
I don't know. Everything kind of seemed very on par to me. I felt it was all decent. Maybe I'll say the women's Elimination Chamber, because I wasn't like, the men's might have been a better match or on par, but I saw the women's first, so I was more burnt out by the time the men's.
Right,
so.
just like the crowd. You were just like the crowd on that one.
Yes,
I'm glad you picked the women's, because I put a poll out on Instagram and said which Elimination Chamber was best, the men's or the women's, and then I fat fingered it as soon as I did it and accidentally voted for women's. And you can't like unvote it.
Sure.
So the official Chilling with the Villain account is saying women's Elimination Chamber is better. So one of us has to say that one of them was better, even though I thought it was the men's. So you fixed my mistake for me by saying the women's Elimination Chamber. So I'm happy.
What was the result
for that? I'm glad you asked. Okay, because it was 49-51 with the men just taking it. So another super close with 82 and 84 votes.
Right. So
almost straight down the middle.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, they were both like pretty much on par. Overall, Sam, what would you give this pay-per-view a rating out of 5 stars? The Meltzer 5 stars, what would you give this? I
also did a poll and asked for stars, and you can only have 3 options or 4. So I did 5 stars, 3 stars, and 1 stars. 19 votes, so 34% gave it 5 stars. 7% gave it 1 star. Now, this is not 1 star. You're nuts if you think it's 1 star. I feel like you're nuts if you think this was 5 star, or you're just from Australia. Maybe it's all our Australian fans. I think 59% of the vote went 3 stars. I think that's more in line. I'm going to give this 2.5, straight down the middle. What about you?
Honestly, I think I'm going to give it 2.5 as well. Like it's fine to watch. Nothing mind-blowing. Nothing wrong with it. Yeah, right. Production's nice and it looks cool, and it's stars. They're all stars that come out for the most part. But again, nothing mind-blowing, nothing too exciting, but nothing bad. So right down the middle, 2.5. I think that's spot on. Yeah, I think that's as fair as anyone could do it. All right, but what do you think? And also, were you there? I'd love to hear someone says who was there. Maybe we were way off about the crowd. Sure.
Who knows?
Absolutely.
That'd be awesome. If you were there, let us know.
Well, Sam, I feel like this was fun to do something a little bit more contemporary.
Yes.
Also, let us know if you enjoy these, but it seems like that's all we have time for this week. So my last message to you. Oh, actually, we do have something to plug. We did put out the first piece of Chilling with the Villain merchandise. We have Chilling with the Villain pullover hoodies, which are very comfortable and very trendy. And it is our first piece of merchandise. So please check that out at prowrestlingtees.com/Marty Skell. It's on my Pro Wrestling Tees page. We don't charge for this podcast. And I know every now and then I remind you that. We are providing entertainment to you people free of charge. So and there are expenses involved, quite a lot of expenses involved actually with running a podcast like this. So
a surprising amount of expenses for us before we came up with this idea. Yeah. We thought it'd be free.
Yeah. So if you would like to support us and look trendy at the same time, we would really appreciate you picking up a Chilling with the Villain pullover hoodie. Thank you.
All right, yes, please pick up some merch if you feel like supporting us. That is very exciting, isn't it? Finally, we got the merch out. People have been asking, and now we got around to it. So that's awesome.
We deliver.
All right, guys. We deliver. Did this pay-per-view deliver? Let us know in the comments on the YouTube episode or on our socials at The Villain Pod. And that's all I have to say for this week. So have a good week. Till next week.